Hey everyone, this is Saul from Three Kingdoms Games, coming to you today with Ravnica Allegiance Spoilers Part 5. If you haven't seen it, Parts 1 through 4 will be in the description box down below. This is the last installment for this series, given that the pre-release is coming up this following weekend. Now, for Orzhov, you have Ethereal Absolution. This is the last of the rares that they've spoiled. It's a 6-cost enchantment. Gives your creatures +1/+1, and your opponent's creatures get -1/-1. You can pay for exile a creature from a graveyard, and you get a 1/1 black-white flying spirit token. For 6 CMC, I don't see this being play in standard or modern. It's a little too slow. Commander, maybe. It's an Anthem effect. 6. If you're doing some kind of weird curse strategy and you mix it with like Overwhelming Splendor, I believe it was from Amonkhet or Hour of Devastation that makes all creatures 1/1s. You potentially just kill the board until they deal with, one of them. But for 6 CMC, there's better things you can do in Standard and or Modern. On to Azorius. Azorius, you have Unbreakable Formation. 3-cost instant. All your creatures get indestructible till end of turn. And Addendum, put a +1/+1 counter on all your creatures. I think this card's amazing. It's going to probably not see play in actually any Azorius decks, but Boros, aggro, White Weenie, anything like that is susceptible to board wipes, this is going to be a must in your sideboard. 3 CMCs, a lot to dedicate to a response like this, but for standard, responses like this unfortunately are around that mark, and it's a little bit slower than modern, but I can still see it being played in either because, it's a direct answer to Kaya's Wrath, Cleansing Nova, Wrath of God, or any of the other major board wipes. For Rakdos, you have Captivating Audience. Sorry, Captive Audience, not Captivating Audience. You play this on an opponent. At the beginning of their turn, they have to choose one of these 3 options. They can only choose each one once. So, a lot of fun there. First option they have, set their life to 4. If you're doing this in Commander, that could be a lot of fun. So they just went from 40 to 4 if they haven't been touched yet. And they have no answers for enchantments. Second option, discard their hand. Now, if you play this in Standard or Modern, and I don't know why I like this card so much, and I probably will try to put it in a Standard or Modern deck, by 7 mana, they probably don't have much of a hand, so that's not really that punishing. And last option is give each of your opponents 5 2/2 zombies. So they just killed the audience is pretty much what they're saying. I like it. I think it's fun. It's, again, probably going to be only Commander play. I'll try to make it work into a constructed deck just for you guys. Maybe Grixis Control. I don't know. Next up for Gruul, you have Niliki, this thing of the old way. 5 CMC, you can't cast non-creature spells. Whenever you tap a land for mana, it produces an additional mana of a type that land can produce. So for 5 CMC, you get some decent land ramp. It's okay. There's better things you can do. I'm going to be talking about a better card in a few seconds. Chain Vines, cost 2, enchantment. Whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, you deal 2 damage to that opponent. You can pay 1, sack it, destroy target artifact or enchantment, and deal 2 damage to its controller. Pretty good card overall. Giving enchantment and artifact destruction to Gruul is pretty strong. Good sideboard card. I don't know how much main deck play it's going to see, but I think it's a solid sideboard card. Next up for Simic, you have Incubation Druid. This card's going to see a ton of play, I think. Cost 2 for a 1/2. For an 0/2. Tap it, add 1 mana to your mana pool of any color that a land you control can produce. There's a mouthful. If it has a +1/+1 counter on it, which it has Adapt 3, so you can give it a +1 counter easily enough. Plus, if you're playing it with a Simic Merfolk strategy, you can probably give it a +1 counter easily enough as well. It will tap to add 3 mana of a color that a land you control can produce. See? A little bit confusing. No. not really. But I think it's going to be a solid card. It's going to see a lot of main deck play, especially for Standard, maybe for Modern. Definitely in Commander, we'll see some play in the right decks. The last split card for Simic is Repudiate and Replicate. So for Repudiate, you pay 2, counter an activated or triggered ability. This is huge since Disallow cycled out in September. We haven't had anything like that in Standard. So this is a good way to deal with Planeswalkers, with any kind of ETB effects from like a Wizard ETB deck. Lots of things you can do. You can also technically disallow or stop a Jumpstart, because it's an activated ability on a card in the graveyard. Just saying, pretty cool. Replicate, pay 3, get a copy of a creature you control. Token copy of a creature you control. That's pretty huge. I like it. I think that's a good card. Overall, good, balanced, solid card. Going to see a lot of play, I think, in both Standard, probably some play in Modern, definitely in Commander. So on to the generic rares. For white, first one you have is Hero of Precinct 1. 2 CMC. It's a white human for 2. That's a 2/2. All those people who are raging about the human deck in Modern, it might get worse if they decide to do a token strategy. Whenever you cast a multi-killer spell, you get a 1/1 white human token. So, things enter, set off all those other human effects that you have that trigger on when a human enters. So, for all those people who weren't raging yet about humans, feel free, start raging right about now. No? Okay. Anyways, next up we have Lumbering Battlement. It's a 5 CMC for a 4/5 with Vigilance. Already not that great. When it enters, you can exile any number of non-token creatures you control. It gets a +2/+2 counter for each one you exile this way. Sorry, gets +2/+2 for each. It's not a counter, it's just +2/+2. And all those cards will remain exiled as long as this is in play. So you can set up this really weird, awkward flicker kind of combination if you wanted to. Otherwise, I think it's just too expensive for what it is. Next up, you have Priest of the Forgotten Gods. So 2 CMC for a 1/2 tap, sack 2 creatures as an additional cost. Any number of players lose 2 life and have to sacrifice a creature. You gain 2 mana, 2 black mana, and draw a card. This could be fun in an Aristocrats like Orzhov deck in either Standard or Modern. Might be a little too slow or weird, but I think it has a place definitely with that kind of ability. It's a good enabler for any of those afterlife effects or any other effects that need to be in the graveyard. Font of Agonies. So we go right into this one next because it kind of makes sense. Whenever you pay life for a cost, you get that many blood counters on it. Pay 2, remove 4 blood counters, destroy target creature. In the right deck, I can see this working decently. It still is going to be iffy to get that many counters on it in Standard, just because, or any 60-card constructor format, because you have only 20 life. So it's a risk-reward kind of thing. Maybe if you're going with Argo's Bloodfast kind of strategy, it could kind of work, but again, kind of iffy. So we have Immolation Shaman. 2 CMC, whenever an artifact, creature, or enchantment ability is activated that isn't a mana ability, do 1 damage to its controller. Pretty good, pretty huge. I think that's a strong sideboard card for the right deck, especially for maybe the KCI kind of matchups and things like that. Might be a little too slow. They might have a way to deal with it. You can pay 5, give it +3/+3 and menace till end of turn. No one's going to use it for that ability. Everyone's going to use it for the first part. Next up, we have Mirror March. 6 CMC. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, that's non-token, flip a coin until you lose a coin flip. For each one you win, you get a copy of that creature till end of turn. It gains haste. Could be fun. Again, strictly a commander card. I don't see anyone trying to make this work in any kind of 60-card constructed format. We have Biogenetic Ooze. 5 CMC for a 2/2. When it enters, you get a 2/2 Ooze token. So you're paying 5 for 2 2/2s. That's already kind of bad, actually. You can pay 4 to get another 2/2 Ooze, as well as at the beginning of each of your end steps, all your oozes get +1/+1 counters. It's not bad. It's not great. It's definitely, we've seen worse. Guardian Project. 4 CMC. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, if you don't have that same creature either in play or in your graveyard, you get to draw a card. For 4, that's okay. Again, commander, it's a good way to draw alternate cards. So, for a couple notable cards that aren't rares that I think everyone should keep an eye out for, is Wilderness Reclamation. For 4 CMC, at the end of your turn, you get to untap your land. So for Bant control, this is huge. It means they can tap out on their turn. They gain all their lands back at the end of turn, and it means they have counter magic open for your turn. Also, if they have any way of flashing and stuff or giving mass flash to things, there's a lot of stuff you can do here with this card. And lastly, the card that I'm surprised that they put in standard, but you knew it was going to happen someday. Skewer the Critic. They just gave me a sorcery speed bolt. So 3 cost, deal 3 damage to any creature, sorcery speed. Spectacle, pay 1. 1 red mana. So that means if you get the ideal draw in like a mono red deck, for instance, on turn 2, between this Wizard's Lightning and Gate 2 Lava Runner, I can do 8 damage to you on turn 2. That's a lot. That is a lot to deal with. That is almost hitting like modern levels of shenanigans. And that's going to be in standard. So you're going to see this in every Boros aggro deck, Rakdos mid-range, Rakdos aggro, mono red, regardless of what it is, this is going to be in that deck as a 4 of. So it's probably going to be an expensive card, so scoop it up when you see it. So there you have it. That was the end of our spoiler series. If you're interested in winning a J Spellbook, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below. Any comment. I will read them all. As always, you can follow us on all major social media. That's in the description box down below. If you haven't secured a pre-release yet, or you want to just keep track of what events are going on in the store, you can follow us at threekingdomsgames.com, or you can drop into one of our 2 locations in Toronto or in Markham. I'll see you next time.